Okay, we all ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm Richard Beal, Police Chief for the City of Dayton, and I'm here to provide an update on a very tragic fatal vehicle crash that occurred last night in downtown Dayton. That was a culmination of a series of events that led up to it, and I will give you an overview of those series of events. With me today is the City Manager of Riverside, Mark Carpenter, the Police Chief of Riverside, Frank Robinson, two majors from Riverside, Matt Sturgeon and Adam Colon, who is here with me today. So to begin this series of events, at 7:11 p.m., crews were flagged down by a male on North Keary Street, just north of Xenia Avenue. The male stated there was a male around the corner that was actively bleeding from his head. Officers arrived at 116 Xenia Avenue, observed the victim, Lloyd Walters, sitting on the steps, bleeding from wounds to his head, face, arms, and chest. Mr. Walters stated that his son, Raymond Walters Jr., had stabbed him, took off in his black 1999 Chevrolet truck. You will now listen to two, one's a radio dispatch call and some's radio traffic related to that initial event. The dispatch call was received less than a minute before the officers are flagged down, but we'll play that call first.
I am off of the Claire. I'm not sure what this street is. It's Xenia Avenue. There's a Caucasian male walking in the middle of the street with blood all over the face and all over his body. I'm not sure what's wrong. I don't think he has to or anything, but I was just calling to let you guys know.
Okay, and he's where on Xenia?
By the light, close to the light that you go off the highway to get to Xenia.
Xenia is a very long road. I'm going to need you to narrow it down.
Okay, do you know where the highway exit to Xenia is? Off of Xenia Avenue?
Okay, so is that 75?
I don't know. I'm not from here. I don't know.
Okay, are you able to turn around and look for us cross street to where he's near?
Off of LeClaire and Xenia Avenue. Like closer to that street, to that light.
Wearing?
Like a navy blue t-shirt and jeans, I think. I wasn't really paying attention to what his pants were. I was keeping looking at it.
All right, and did you want to leave your name at all?
Nope.
All right, I'll listen to this. Check it out.
Now you're going to hear the officer's self-dispatch call when they come in contact, when they were flagged down regarding this individual. That is condensed, by the way. That's about 8 minutes long radio traffic, so it is condensed down to just preserve time. So it's not in real time as it occurred, but we'll play that condensed version.
144B, dispatch new track that's put about at 1:15 p.m. Man colored blood.
Yes, sir. We'll first say it's around one.
Can you send the medic for ministry, please?
1911.
Dispatch, please send them quickly, please.
Yes, sir.
Dispatch, contact stabbing. East Side Crew, look out for Raymond Walters Jr. He's going to be in going to need a black Chevy truck with a gray ceiling. I'll get the license plate on there.
One 40 reserve time.
Yeah.
141, you're done.
Get the one.
950.
East Side Crew, the plate on the 99 Chevy is going to be John 239184. John 239184 going to be driven by Raymond Walters Jr.
146 dispatch. Do we have any response? How are you?
You're clear.
These bunkers should be advised that the vehicle is last being headed north on the beach.
146, we need to bring together 148 Volt and see if the truck's there. One more be Rambler.
Yes, sir.
Okay, at 7:13 p.m., the black Chevrolet truck drove off the roadway in front of 4542 Airway Road, striking a tree in the front yard. Suspect then exited the truck. Riverside Police Department was notified of the crash and responded to conduct an investigation. At 7:19 p.m., the Riverside officer exited police vehicle in an attempt to apprehend the suspect. Suspect was able to gain access to police vehicle before he could be apprehended. Riverside officer tased the suspect in an attempt to stop the theft of the cruiser. The taser was ineffective, and the suspect fled in the police cruiser traveling west on Airway Roads towards Smithfield Road. This is the 911 call of the accident requesting police response.
Yes, there's somebody just wrecked in my front yard.
Okay, what did they hit, man?
They hit a rock, hit my tree, and the car's just sitting out here running, and somebody took off running out of it.
Okay, are they injured?
I don't know. All I hear is somebody out there is calling for help, but he's walking, so I don't know if he's injured or not.
Okay, so you said he went into a tree?
Yeah, he ran into a tree in my front yard.
Okay, and is there anybody else in the vehicle or just the one person?
I didn't see anybody but him when I opened the door. He was the only one that I seen.
And he's not injured, right?
Well, he's walking around calling for help. I don't know if he is or not. He hit hard. I mean, real hard.
Do you have airbags are deployed?
I don't know, sir. I didn't go outside. He's out there hollering for help.
Okay, what kind of vehicle is it?
It's a truck.
What color?
Pickup truck.
What color?
Black.
Okay, and is he a white male or black male?
He's white.
What color shirt?
He didn't have one on.
Okay, alrighty, what's your last name?
Okay, at 7:20 p.m., Dayton police crews were notified over the radio that a Riverside Police Department SVU cruiser was recently stolen from Airway Road and heading into Dayton at a high rate of speed with the overhead lights on. Suspect was described as a bald white male covered with tattoos, which is the same description of Raymond Walters Jr. The citywide Signal 99 was then entered. At 7:22 p.m., the cruiser driven by the suspect, Raymond Walters Jr., was heading westbound on East 3rd Street and ran a red light at Patterson Boulevard. The cruiser collided with a red Acura SUV within the intersection. The Acura SUV was occupied by 3 adults. The police cruiser then struck a gray Honda Odyssey occupied by 7 children and 1 adult as the vehicle was pulling away from the curb in front of the library. The impact caused the Honda Odyssey to roll across East 3rd Street and ultimately came to rest on the southwest curb. The stolen cruiser was estimated to be trailing at 97 miles an hour upon impact. The force of the impact also caused the police cruiser to split in several pieces. You'll now hear a dispatch call.
There's just a bad intersection in a police car, stolen police car, Patterson at 3rd Street.
Patterson at 3rd, and can you tell which agency this cruiser was?
There's a police officer here. There was a police cruiser that just went through the intersection and was hit by another driver.
Okay. Can you tell what city or agency the police car is that hit the other car or was hit by the other car?
The other car hit the police car that was stolen.
Okay. Was it like a Riverside officer's car that was involved?
I don't know, their police here, Riverside, yes. Riverside Police. Okay.
Dayton police officers arrived on the scene and used counterforce that was to actually take Mr. Walters into custody, so he's non-compliant upon our approach to him. Total 12 removals were made from the crash site by Dayton, Harrison Township, and Kettering medics to Grandview, Miami Valley, and Dayton Children's Hospital. Dayton Police Department homicide detectives, special victims unit detectives, and crash reconstruction unit detectives responded to the scene to conduct the investigation. Now present you a timeline. Most of that has already been in my narrative, so I will not repeat it other than indicating that medics entered the scene at 7:28 p.m., 6 minutes after the crash was reported to have occurred. I'll let you look at that timeline just briefly. And now you will see the dash cam of a Riverside cruiser that was responding to the scene. It was a police sergeant of this initial incident where also a Riverside officer was already on scene. You will see the Riverside vehicle, which is now under the control of the suspect, driving backwards at a high rate of speed. You'll see a collision occurs which disables the police sergeant's SUV, ending any potential to pursue that vehicle. So I direct your attention to one of these screens to see this in-car camera video. See the Riverside vehicle now in the view, and the vehicle is now beginning to back up with the door open on the passenger side. Next slide is going to provide you a scene overview of these three related events. The first was at 116 Xenia Avenue. See that in the lower left-hand corner of the map here. That's the location where the father was found stabbed. The next contact with Mr. Walters was up at 4542 Airway. That was the scene of the accident where he drove into the tree. And then the final location is 215 East 3rd Street, which was the location of the fatal crash site. We have a couple of photos from the actual accident scene. So these are part of the crime scene photos taken. You can see the accident, the vehicle disabled here, back in the scene and in various pieces. So a bit of a distance photo. We have another one here. Again, this is the gray Honda Odyssey that's back into the very, very distance there on the left-hand side of the street as you're looking at it. And this is the Riverside Cruiser, which was substantially damaged and really fell apart into large pieces, and you see some of that debris from the vehicle, and it's the remainder of it, which is intact, you can see in the left-hand screen. So a massive, devastating damage to that vehicle, which gives a very clear evidence of the severity of the impact of this car traveling at 97 miles an hour. Suspect is a Raymond Andrew Walters, substantial contact with the Dayton police. I won't read all these contacts with you. They're there on the screen for your information. I will tell you he is on active parole for a robbery and was released from prison in August of 2019. As of Tuesday morning, a total of 2 children lost their lives in the crash. A third remains in critical condition. The remaining 8 individuals have either been treated and released or in stable condition. Homicide detectives will be meeting with the Montgomery County Prosecutor's Office to present murder charges and other related offenses on Raymond Walters Jr. This is an incredibly tragic event for our city, particularly for the families impacted, and I ask you keep them in our thoughts and prayers. Now I'll answer what questions I can, and Chief Robinson will come up here to the podium too if you may have some questions for him.
Can we put the suspect's picture back up there?
Yes, can we put the suspect's picture back up, please?
Was he being pursued at the time that he crashed?
No. No, we're checking all of our in-car cruisers. We have found no evidence. There was no indication at the scene that there was any pursuit. There's no evidence of any video reviewed that any of our officers are involved in any pursuit at all. Riverside Sergeant's vehicle was incapacitated by the impact, and there's no evidence, I won't speak for the Chief, but of that Riverside pursuing that vehicle after that crash, but Chief will let you speak to that if you wish.
No, there was after the procedure.
Could you come up to the podium?
Sure. It's Frank Robinson, Chief Riverside. After Sergeant Safety's vehicle was struck on Airway, there was no pursuit from the Riverside Police Department of the suspect.
How did he get into the officer's car? Like, how did that transport?
Okay, so when the officer responded to the call, obviously we're going there as an accident. That's our first and foremost thing. We're looking for a suspect or a victim, actually, in response to this suspect, the victim walking down the street screaming for help. Officer responds. When he gets there, the suspect is bloody. He's walking towards the vehicle on his right side, on the passenger side. As he passes by the vehicle, the officer exits his vehicle and goes around the back side to check on him and see if he can assist him. When he does that, the suspect doubles back and gains access to the passenger side of the vehicle.
Do you think he did that intentionally, trying to steal the car to get him back there?
I can't speak for what his mindset was, but I would venture to guess that would be the good reason for him to go back to the vehicle.
Does the suspect have drugs, alcohol in his system?
Yeah, we believe it's possible methamphetamine may be a contributing factor. We're seeking the necessary medical records to confirm that. There is a history of drug abuse in his history.
Chiefs, we saw that the tasers were ineffective. In the heat of the moment, are there other avenues that the officer could have used to stabilize the situation?
I think that was the force that was necessary at the time for what we actually do. What was presenting itself was a victim, and now we're not sure exactly what he's thinking, and he jumps in the vehicle, then we have a person now who's not complying, but it doesn't reach another level other than to abuse a taser.
What's the status of your officers that are involved in that situation? Are they on leave, still active?
I'm not sure. I think they're on leave, and we're actually sitting them out to have some evaluation with them, speak with some folks, and things like that. It is.
Was the taser appropriately applied? In other words, did both leads hit the guy, or did maybe one hit the chair, car seat, or something?
Taser was deployed twice. The first time it struck, he went to 5 seconds. He was trying to comply somewhat, and then it was deployed a second time. When we say ineffective, it actually hit him one place, but it actually hit him in his jeans that were not effective, so it did not hit him the second time, which enabled him to gain the vehicle.
Why do you suspect meth? And do you think he was high on meth, and would that have impacted the use of the taser?
Yeah, I think that his behavior at the scene, prior drug history, and other information leads us to believe methamphetamine may be a factor, maybe. We need to confirm that, but certainly a strong suspicion.
And the cruiser, was it running at the time? Did it have to start it up?
Yes, it was running at the time.
The
victims, the children, they were all in the same van, 7 of them. Did they belong to a certain group? Were they members of the same family?
6 were, I believe, of the same family. 1 was a relative of that family.
Had they just been previously at the library?
Yes, they had. One of the children wanted to drop off a book and was there to do that.
Chief, can you talk us through the protocol, either one of you, of getting to a scene, exiting the vehicle, or locking the vehicle? Is that involved? Obviously, it's running. I imagine an onboard computer might be an issue. Is there a protocol for training when you exit a vehicle like that?
We currently have no policy in reference to locking our vehicles at accident scenes. So basically, to us that was an accident scene. So when we arrived, we get out, we immediately, because it's such a rapid incident happening, as you see this person walking past you, bloodied or whatever, and you want to go out and help them. You're not sure what's going on, then you have no idea that they're going to double back and get into the vehicle. So we had no policy in reference to that. So that vehicle to us was never unattended because the officer was with it the whole time.
Why did he stab his father?
I don't know that we have information about that specifically, Corey. So it was multiple times. They were in the vehicle. I think there was maybe some question about him getting some mental health treatment or something. I need to ask is if we can confirm that his father was talking about getting some treatment. I think
that's correct. The father was transporting him to the hospital for treatment evaluation for mental health issues, and that's when apparently he learned where he was being taken, and he stabbed his father multiple times.
Chief, can you repeat that from the police?
Yeah. So his father had him in the vehicle with him and was intending to take him to the hospital for some mental health treatment. When his son found out where he was heading, that's when he, I think, threatened to kill his father, pulled out a wedge-edged weapon, short-bladed edged weapon, and began to assault him multiple times.
And have you had any previous reports of son and father having physical confrontations, possibly?
Not that I'm aware of, but there's a pretty extensive history, and we did not have time to go through all those prior history, but I'm not aware of any.
Any updates on the medical condition, Chief, of the father?
Don't know. Treated and released, do we know or not?
He was stable. I don't know if he was released yet.
Okay,
or not,
so we don't know if he's released, but stable condition.
What's the condition? What's his condition? The suspect.
He is stable condition and currently in the hospital.
If you're driving 100 miles an hour down East 3rd Street, was he just like, was there any indication he was trying to commit suicide?
No, I don't think that's. I don't think there's any evidence to support that. Top speed was 101 miles an hour, 97 miles an hour upon impact.
When he backed into that police cruiser, did that render that cruiser inoperable?
Yes, sir.
Chief, any idea, either we can answer this, how he was able to get parole out of prison?
No idea.
And was he supposed to be checking in with probation officers? Do you know what that situation was in terms of what his requirements were?
Well, typically it's parole is supervised, and there's requirements to check in on a regular basis with the parole officers. His specific conditions, I'm not aware of.
And have you even been able to start tracking that down in terms of knowing if anyone's had contact?
I believe we have. If we have not, we intend to make contact with Adult Parole Authority. I know we had a conversation earlier today, so hopefully we've made that contact, and if not, we will do shortly. So
he's only been released for a couple weeks in prison.
Yeah.
Do you think he was deliberately trying to cause a crash?
I think it's hard to say. I mean, we just don't know enough, I think, right now. The question, we don't really know the causative factor of the first crash. I don't think that's clear necessarily. So at the rate of speed he was traveling, the inevitability of a crash is almost guaranteed. So whether he intended to, his actions were certainly highly likely to lead to. I mean, you really would have to be naive to think that kind of driving was not going to have a catastrophic impact.
Was he being pursued yet by either Dayton or Riverside when he got to the library? He was just running.
Just running.
And when he hit that police cruiser and disintegrated, where was that officer?
No, he's driving it. There's no officer in it. He stole the vehicle.
Oh.
So he's the driver of a stolen police vehicle at that time. There's no officer on scene.
Did the van that the children were in, did it actually roll, or did it?
No, not that I'm aware of.
But did his vehicle hit it, or the other vehicle, like he's jammed?
Well, he hit the Acura first, and then there was a secondary collision involving the Honda Odyssey.
So the Cruiser hit the Odyssey, though, or it hit the...
Yes.
Yes.
I think it glanced off the first vehicle, did it not, and then crashed into the Odyssey, and then that's
Which direction was the Odyssey headed when it got hit struck?
The Odyssey was parked along the north curve facing westbound from the
Yeah, it was trying to pull from the curb, but it stopped.
When he hit.
Yeah.
Chief, with the understanding that this took place, started, I guess, in the city of Dayton, ended up in Riverside, ended up back in the city of Dayton. Of the charges, the most serious, of course, would be vehicular homicide.
Well, we're looking for murder charges. Yeah, we're seeking murder.
comes in because of felony.
Correct.
Stealing the vehicle.
Well, the aggravated assault or felonious assault of his father, aggravated auto robbery, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Has he been officially charged in Chief Bill?
not that I'm aware of.
You said a total of 12 people were hospitalized. Does that include the father and the suspect as well, or was that just other people?
This was from the scene of the crash, so included the suspect, not the father,
Not the father. Okay, so
because he was not at that scene.
And about how many vehicles were in total hit? We saw quite a
I believe it's just the three. Any indication more than three? The stolen cruiser and two civilian vehicles.
There were two other vehicles that were parked in front of the Honda Odyssey that also sustained minor damage.
All right, so two additional with some minor damage.
There was a vehicle in Riverside as well that got struck. If you've seen the video, he's backing up. He has a vehicle there first.
Right.
And also, just to try and explain it, we saw the other video that, I guess, passerby took. There was an officer, before he stole the police vehicle, there was an officer standing outside the Riverside vehicle.
Yeah.
That was that officer's vehicle?
Yes.
So he was in the passenger seat? How did he get into the driver's seat so quickly?
I'm just saying he was motivated to get into the driver's seat as quick as possible. So when he opened the door, he just immediately went across. He locked the doors, locking the officer out. The officer used his key to gain entry on the passenger side because he's on the other side of where the traffic is going through. So he's only staying out of traffic. So that's when he makes contact with him, and he doesn't comply with him.
Did he threaten the officer at any time? Did he have the weapon on him when he was confronted by the officer, or was the officer trying to help?
That I'm not sure if he threatened him or obviously what he was actually saying to him in there.
Did you guys recover the knife from that?
Yes, it was recovered inside the truck at the 42 airway address.
The edge weapon was recovered in the vehicle. Truck, the father's truck.
So to keep going back to this, but is meth could that have played a big role in terms of like culpability, or is it just all his actions, or just getting really high on methamphetamine?
Yeah,
aggressive tendencies.
People are responsible for their actions, and methamphetamine might, if we have evidence that was in fact in his system and of a level that influenced his behavior, might have been a contributing factor to volatile behavior. It's not an excuse for the behavior.
Chief, as Chief at Riverside, is there anything personally you would like to acknowledge to the families involved?
Obviously, the city itself and the city, the Riverside Police Department want to, offer condolences to the family and the victims of this tragic event that we wish never happened. But
just to reiterate, there were 7 children in the Odyssey plus an adult.
Yes.
And why weren't any shots fired at the cruiser that was being stolen?
I think the chief already answered that earlier.
From the teaser?
Yeah, it was basically, I won't speak for chief, but he basically explained, you got an auto accident. That's all the information they have. The information was not available yet to them that this was a felonious assault in the city of Dayton. So all they're responding to is an auto accident.
At any point in time, was any department notified of, obviously there was a stabbing, but they had no idea who the person that did the stabbing was as of yet, correct?
Who are we speaking to?
Talking?
We did.
Yes. Okay.
We did, and that was put out in the broadcast by a Dayton police officer.
And Chief, with that information, there was no acknowledgement of the fact that this guy may have just gotten out of prison?
No.
Right?
No, not at that time.
All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it.